Hello, welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Podcast. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard. That's L-E-N-A-R-D. It looks French. It's not. It's Leonard without an O. Thank you for tuning in. As Graham Norton used to say on his show, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. This is going to be a quick cheat intro segment. I'm going to be lazy. I've got so many guest recordings built up. I'm going to get lazy and cheat on some Saturdays. I don't have to dream up a monologue topic this way. And I'm also not going to say what guest will be appearing because I'm going to be lazy and cheat and use the same intro several Saturdays to intro a guest show. So as Graham Norton used to say, let's get on with the show. Surprise interview. Take care, God bless. Oh, joining me today is Julian Raven, and since that can be spelled a few different ways, it's Julian Raven, and of course, in the final episode, if you look at the behind-the-scenes video, it'll be on a scroll at the bottom there. At any rate, welcome to the show, Julian. How are you?
I'm very good, Joseph. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's like I always say, could be better, could be worse, right?
Well, thank God I'm alive and able to give witness to that, and obviously walk out in the purposes of God is always a real blessing.
Yep. As the saying goes, we got up on the right side of the lawn today.
Yeah, we did.
You are here to discuss Odious and Cerberus, an American immigrant's odyssey, and your free speech legal war against Smithsonian corruption, a Christian manual to bring faith and the gospel to the marketplace where it always causes a controversy. But the Christian joke, right? The proverbial first question, who the heck are you? Where were you? Where were you born? Where were you raised? Where are you now? How much time and for what crime did you spend in prison?
That type of thing. Well, I am born in London, England.
Oh, well, we won't hold that against you.
Raised in Marbella, Spain, on the southern coast near Gibraltar. And from where I was raised, you could see the Atlas Mountains of North Africa. You could see the Rock of Gibraltar. Very beautiful place in southern Spain.
Picturesque, yes, very Absolutely. Nice. You should take a picture and use that as your background.
I have different ones. I'm an artist. I'm a photographer. I have plenty of images. Oftentimes, it's not knowing which one to use. There's so many beautiful pictures.
Yep. So, what brought about the Odious and Cerberus, an American immigrant's odyssey?
Well, that's a journey. It's a journey of faith, and the story really starts, I would imagine, listen, when we begin, right, our journey, when we are born, we live, we go through our experiences, and by the age of 10, and I'll do this as a recap because my story is extensive. It's a wonderful odyssey. It really is. It's been an adventure. It's fraught with all sorts of trials and tribulations and giants and romances and failures and heartaches and, mountaintops along.
Well, we want to focus on your failure here.
Yeah, well, that's good. But listen, but that's good. With the failures is this, like, without those, the failure is our greatest teacher. And so,
amen.
There's nothing else, the way God's process of sanctification, in my experience, in my life, has only happened through failure, through struggle and disappointment. It doesn't come through the good times. So failure is my bosom buddy. And as a Christian, we embrace the cross because it's through the cross that we receive the life-transforming power of Jesus Christ. So that's been my experience as a follower of Jesus. Now, that happened, my journey even to faith. I used to be an atheist. I was born, my father Jewish, my mother Gentile. I was raised in this beautiful place, like I said, in southern sunny Spain. Grew up atheist because my dad died when I was 10 years old, and tragically he vanished from my life. No one could give me answers. No one could explain anything. There was no faith around. The people that I knew were just faithless, really. My mother had very, very shallow faith. It's like non-existent. And so I struggled as a young man, and it just led me on a very dark path towards, really suicide at the end of it, frustration, by the time I was in my teens, from the age of 18 to 22 became the darkest period of my life, spiraling. In southern Spain, I became, as an entrepreneur, very young age. I left art school, had a very traumatic experience at the age of 18, which really galvanized my atheism. And then after that, I went into the world of drugs and alcohol. I owned 3 and built and ran from the age of 18. I just was, as a pioneer, I just took it upon myself to do it. I didn't know. I left school saying, at the age of 16, saying I'd never work for anyone. I didn't know why. I just had the urge just to be my own boss, whatever that meant, and built these businesses. One of them is still there today, now 35 years later, 36 years later. And I lived a very wild, hopeless life. And my medicine to numb the pain of not knowing the answers to the great questions was drugs and alcohol. And it was how I medicated my hopeless condition, until I had an epiphany on a beautiful mountain in southern Spain, right near where I lived. I was a seeker. I always was a seeker, always trying to find the answers, always trying to take things apart. Since a young boy, I was always dismantling things, trying to understand and figure out how things worked. And so in my life, the same was how I approached life. And God was obviously seeing that. And as much of an atheist as I was, and I was hardcore, militant, angry, anybody mentioned any sense of having faith, I would go take it upon myself to go and mock them and ridicule them and just be this hostile.
The unfortunate proverbial anti-faithful, anti-Christian atheist. Absolutely. Not all are that way. I often talk on the show about Penn and Teller fame, the famous comedian magicians. A great person who doesn't hate people of faith or mock Christianity. He often says he has no problem with Moses and the 10 Commandments and that being on our Supreme Court building in the U.S., because whether you come at these things from a moral faith point of view or just a humanist, it's just being a good human. I have no right to steal your stuff, nor your mine. I have no right to take your life, nor you take mine. Whether you come at that from a faith-based or just a humanist standpoint, what's the problem with that?
Well, that's one of those big questions that people have. I would take the argument further to a source and actually saying, well, there is no problem with it, but people need to either come to an understanding that it's either true or it's not true, and this is the hard part when you take a real honest examination of history, and you see the way the Christian faith spread throughout the world and sanitized the world. The world went from the madness that you see in countries today that are non-Christian countries that have populations that are immoral, or the madness, the Christian message brings that restraint upon human behavior. And so, as you mentioned, even the moral laws, people can't find fault with them because, it's actually, I don't like it that people want to come and kill me. So I'm quite happy to have a law to protect me in that sense. Well, that's great. But if you want to take an evolutionistic view, and this is where they're such hypocrites, then you say, well, I'm going to come and kill you because it's survival of the fittest, and I'm going to be the fittest. And yet you should be happy and celebrate that we are living out our Darwinian nirvana, and we're just going to slaughter.
No. They want to have it. Right, they're cake and eat it too. They want to have it both ways.
And then they say, we have evolved. We have evolved evolutionary morality. And you're like, So what?
Yeah.
It never makes it absolute. It means that you can change it tomorrow. It's like
Right.
There's no absolute.
If you have no actual guiding moral code, it can change on a whim. Absolutely. And my audience knows I like to joke around, and I can never avoid being a smart you-know-what. So for those viewing on the behind-the-scenes video, looking at you, they're going to obviously know the smart you-know-what question next. How often do you get asked to portray Santa around Christmas time?
Well, I do it. In Spain, I was Santa last Christmas. Yeah, I have a lot of fun doing it. There's a lot.
For the benefit of the transcript and those on the 25 plus audio platforms, Julian has a very full white beard. So
I did, and it's an amazing experience. And it's an amazing story. Most people, the confusion between who Santa Claus was. You have
the real Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas, amazing life, amazing story, amazing Christian, a true follower of Jesus.
Yeah, the cross between the German Sinterklaas and the real Saint Nicholas gives us our Santa Claus of today, which a lot of Christians get upset around Christmas time about. But if you use Santa in the right way as children get older to explain then the real Saint Nick when they're old enough to understand it, it's a good thing, not just the whole Coca-Cola commercialization kind of thing.
Absolutely. I've seen such remarkable things happen. What I think is an amazing experience, what I have is when you wear the suit and you go out among, especially when you see the kids, you see in the eyes of children, you see a faith, and it's obviously they have been trained or they're believing and they see it, but I've had kids look at me in ways that are just like, my God, look at those eyes that are this big, that are just innocent, pure, bright, and they're like staring at you like they think
and yet there are so many people who want to poo-poo and destroy our children, sexualize them, pervert them, try to make them adults far too soon. Let our kids be kids and be innocent for a while, and we as a human race, I talk about this, about the Bible as a Dr. Seuss book. People get upset with me when I say that, but we as a human species are but children to God.
That's right.
So the Bible is a Dr. It doesn't tell us everything, and God doesn't owe us all the answers. Eventually there'll be another testament when we can handle more and understand more. But for now, it's Dr. Seuss. It's not War and Peace. Now, this says here, let's get back to the seriousness. Like the Apostle Paul, I have been involved in a nationally important legal battle with the Smithsonian. So let's get into that. What's the background on that?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Every life is a story. Some just end too soon. Ryan's life unfolds through words on paper, dreams of youth, love discovered, and the challenges of growing up. He found purpose in love, joy in family, and meaning in every small moment. But even the strongest hearts can break. And sometimes life takes unexpected turns. Through laughter and loss, Ryan leaves behind something greater than memories, a lasting legacy. A short story, A Lasting Legacy, by Joseph M. Leonard. A moving reflection on life, love, and the stories we leave behind. Available on Amazon in ebook, paperback, and hardcover editions. By Joseph M. Leonard.
Well, obviously, the great chapter in the book of Acts there when Paul is, he knew how to, and as an instrument of God, he knew how to, provoke the how can I say, the powers that be in that wonderful clash. I believe it was at Herod, and they're trying to accuse him, and he starts throwing out facts about who he was, and you arrested a Roman citizen, and they're like, oops, we didn't know he was a Roman. And then he's like, oh yeah, but they're claiming this, and he was able to pitch the Sadducees against the Pharisees, and he's like he was a smart master of using the system. And this is the message, I think, to the church.
One of the examples of, boy, you picked on the wrong guy.
That's exactly it. And he was able to do that. And then as that whole sort of trial progressed, when he gets to that final great statement, he says, I appeal to Caesar. And Herod says to him, to Caesar you will go. And that led him on that journey where then he will fulfill his calling, right where he wrote from prison, the book of Romans, and amazing ministry that God, the upside down kingdom, facilitates, where through the punishment, he accomplishes the greatest work that he could have done. It's amazing. And while in chains, as he says, I'm able to do the greatest work that God has called me to do. So I've always been moved by that. Obviously, the scripture, the stories, and I want to aspire to walk in the footsteps of our forefathers in the faith, the Christian faith, and then have an impact in the same way. And I've always spent my life as a Christian seeing how can I have the most impact?
Yeah, so how does this all involve the Smithsonian somehow?
Well, as an artist, it leads to a painting, a prescient, predictive or prophetic image that I painted in the summer of 2015 of then candidate Donald Trump. As a New Yorker, I was very familiar with the guy, and it's a whole story. It's in the book, whole journey of how I was inspired at that early age. Most people thought I was crazy. All the believers that I knew said I would have to hold my nose to vote for this guy and this type of thing. And so,
I was one of those people. Yep. He thankfully is a different man than he was. He was a serial adulterer, playboy. He was all those things. There's no denying it. But and God has a way of using bad vessels.
Well, that's the truth. Yeah, I'm not a Trump apologist, but I acknowledge, and this was my story, the hand of God on exactly that he picks and chooses who he wants to, and he uses who he wants to. So that whole story was life-changing for me on the journey that it led me on as a newborn American citizen. And then seeking how to be a Christian in this country that I could see had drifted so far from its founding values and ideas. It's the way that the Christian faith had impacted society, had impacted law. And so I have always, as somebody who's always sought for reform, as somebody who is, as a student, obviously church history, especially in the Reformation, are the great moves of God that have brought Reformation to the church itself. That spirit of Reformation, if you bear the spirit of Christ, it's in us. We want to see world reform. We want to see, as in business, I've restored furniture. You want to see things restored and fixed and made right once again. So in that spirit, my painting carries that message. I went on a campaign.
You don't have the painting to show, so can you give a description of it? Kind of, what you said it's of Trump. In what aspect, or just a
giant 7 by 15 foot canvas, and it's a giant portrait of Trump. It was like a 7-foot portrait. And then to the right of it, it's like an interpretation from a Christian perspective of seeing God working at that time in this sinner's life. And it's layered with symbolic imagery. A lot of it is Christ-centered. The composition of the painting is Christ-centered, but it's symbolic. It's all this. Whether it's the layer, the outline of a lot of the image is this light that covers the entire portrait, is a picture then of obviously the providential, supervision of God over this whole. The symbols I wove it in. The whole painting is a Christian. It's an allegory in the sense of, as a believer, interpreting the events that are happening in front of me and seeing how this man could very much be this instrument that facilitates
the God working through the imperfect vessel and attempt at potential for redemption and to be far better and greater than one was before once.
Right. And the thing I think with it mostly that I shared a lot was that the danger, and this is the danger even we see today, and it's the danger that is that I've had a lot of coverage on this journey, and it's been going on for 10 years. But the danger to the church is that people would, and I would say it every time, even I'm saying it now, is that people would sit back. The church has always suffered when, obviously they're either not acting when they should because of the terrible things that are happening around us, or not acting as they should because now somebody else is doing the job. And I used to say the biggest problem that we'll have right now is that people will sit back and they'll get their popcorn out and they'll be like, oh, this guy's going to fix everything for us. And it's like, no.
Not going to happen.
This
right?
guy, don't be deceived. There's a lot of deception.
Right. One person can't, short of Christ himself, one person can't do it all. And only thing necessary evil prevail, good peoples do nothing.
Nothing, right. And that is the sentiment behind it, to say, to me, I saw it as an opportunity for the church to stand up and say, hey, we have an opportunity because we actually have an unbeliever who's contending, even if it's on a religious level, he's contending for our ideas, as superficial as saying, oh, Merry Christmas, and we're going to put Merry Christmas back into Christmas. And it's like, well, yeah, these are very, very superficial approaches, but they are valid because at that level, our Christian faith is being maligned and attacked and undermined. And so now we have this leader that's going to stand up and say, well, I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to say it to you.
Yeah. And as a personal standpoint, I like that, the cultural war. But at the same time, right, being a Christian, I recognize it isn't only and always about me and my stuff. So, yes, we as Christians say Merry Christmas, but I don't demand the people at Target or wherever say Happy Holidays is perfectly fine with me because I want to acknowledge my Jewish brethren and Hanukkah. I want to acknowledge, hey, New Year's Eve, the holiday is around the corner. So I, around Christmas time, have no problem with the happy holidays if it's meant in the right way. It's not meant as a cultural attack of trying to eliminate Christianity. Absolutely. So the motivation matters.
That's right. And that's I think the heart behind, all of the issues that we face, because when there's the prohibition, when people are afraid to say it, they kind of lose their job to saying this type of thing. It's like, look, you've got to be able to allow people to be themselves. And that's the thing. Now, we get into a whole other subject there, obviously, that we can wade into there. But the point is that with him, even though that, like I said, these very superficial attachments or allegiances to the Christian faith, they were sufficient to then say, well, this is an opportunity for the church to stand up and rise up and become who we should be. Because, like I said, complacency is a curse that cripples Christianity, and it's happened in the story of Israel. It's like, people will always get weak, will always get comfortable when things are going well.
It's part of human nature.
And that's
right. That's the problem with biblical community. Free will. We are to want to be our brother's keeper and take care of widows and orphans. But the Bible also makes the distinction against those who are unwilling to bother to do things for themselves versus those who are unable, right? Worldly communism is a bastardization of biblical community. It's not free will, it's force. It's not choice, it's force. It's not charity of one's own blood and treasure, it's theft, force, redistribution. These things matter. Now back to the Christmas thing again. Even if you don't want to acknowledge the Christianity in Christmas if you just go to the secular issue of, can't we be more charitable to one another as humans? From an atheist standpoint, what is the problem with Merry Christmas as a let's be kind to each other sentiment, right?
Yeah, but we know it's in the name. It's all wrapped up in the name. It's what's in the name Christ. It's the power that's in that name.
And that's why they fear it. Yeah, that's why they fear it. That's why they don't want it uttered.
They don't want to utter it. They just want to curse that name. You know, it's a weird, very weird human condition. But yeah, that's so those things are all undergirding my expression as an artist in this painting. There's a lot of those issues that are woven into symbolically. So the journey is I go on this campaign on my own dime. I cross the country. I have this wonderful experience. And then after the election, and this gets to the Smithsonian question, after the election, when Trump wins, I wasn't surprised because I painted this prescient image in 2015. So it's like, I knew it. Most people laughed at me. They mocked me. They ridiculed me. What are you saying? And I said, well, I'm just doing what I believe. And here it is. And he couldn't process. It was always like ahead of its time because it was. So after the election and Trump wins in 2016, excuse me, then I was like, well, what am I going to do with this now? And I was sort of bummed out for a couple of weeks. I was like, wow, this is like everything went flat. The election he won. Okay, great. And I stopped wondering, what do I do with it? And I ended up praying because I didn't know. I thought maybe I might sell the thing. I just didn't know. And I prayed and I get the idea, the Smithsonian Institution, because all across the United States, as I had shown my painting from New York to California, people had come up to me and said, that should be in the Smithsonian. That should be in the Smithsonian. I was like, well, what's the Smithsonian? I'm a newborn citizen. I thought Smithsonian was a place of rockets and spaceships in Washington, D.C. So I then begin to read.
Yeah, you didn't know the whole greater, broader.
Nothing.
Of the other museums, right?
So I discovered the National Portrait Gallery. And then I discovered, because my painting had been shown in LA in 2016 alongside the Obama Hope poster painting that was a very famous.
The Dope and Change poster, yeah.
By Shepard Fairey. And but the artwork was commissioned by a guy named Yossi Sergeant. He was the brains and the political mind behind that image. The artist was a graffiti artist in the streets of LA who bumped into this guy, Yossi Sergeant, at an art show. He paid him $100. He said, create me this image.
Use communistic, fascistic imagery, create dope and change to fool the people.
Well, that's their creed, and that's what they that's what they believed, and they did it. And anyway, this guy calls me up. He says, I want your painting in my show. And I showed it out in LA. It was a huge gig for me. So when I went to the Smithsonian, well, blow me down, there the Smithsonian Institution, the National Portrait Gallery, had shown in 2009 and 2013 the same Obama Hope poster as a tribute in the arts to the incoming President Barack Obama. This historic.
So there's your argument.
There it is. So yeah. I then got letters of support from New York politicians, a representative from about 200,000 people in upstate New York. I then had letters from my mayor and the congressman and senator and all these other Republican folks, and then also art collectors and a radio host. And it was a publicly supported application. I go through the process, and I get to this point where I get this call one day from the director of the National Portrait Gallery herself. Turns out to be an Australian woman, and an Australian, not even an American. And that set off this 11-minute argument where this woman, with a very snooty, condescending tone, began to arbitrarily object to my painting, denying it in any which way she could, even so much as saying at one point, she's like, well, it's not from life, meaning that the a portrait painted from life would be I sit in front of you and I paint you directly or to the canvas. And
how was the dope and change?
Oh, there you go. There you
Again,
go. So I knew that story so well that I said to her, "Well, the Obama Hope and Change painted, that was not painted. That was there was an edited photograph from the internet that was used in a 24-hour process." I knew the whole story. At that point, she raises her voice. She starts yelling and screaming, and she's like,
clearly someone who had early onset TDS.
She absolutely, and it went to this. It ended after all of these objections. Then it's too political. It's too this, and it's like you show a political campaign portrait of a Barack Obama 2 elections in a row, and now you're telling me my painting is too political. It's like these are the viewpoint discrimination. So at the end of the call, after raising her voice and disparaging my artwork, she's like, "I'm the director of the National Portrait Gallery. Your application will go no further. You can appeal it all you want." Click, and she hangs up the phone. And that was like stunning. It was like I could not believe what had happened to me, and it led me on a journey of appealing through the Smithsonian Institution all the way. Well, even there, see, most people, Joseph, and most Americans, and myself before included, I knew nothing. But even today, most people, and that's why I'm doing these podcasts, wrote my book, etc., is because nobody knows what the Smithsonian Institution is. They just
But before we go any further, let's mention the book again is Odious and Cerberus: An American Immigrant's Odyssey. Do you have it? There we go. For those looking at behind the scenes video, you'll be able to see he's holding up the book there. And it's actually in focus 9 times out of 10, because you're not using a green screen. 9 times out of 10, people hold up a book. Oh, I can't get it to focus because of the green screen.
Camera, I got a good camera. It does a good job. But even with the green screen, it does a good job there. But the point with the story and me sharing it is that, what the Smithsonian Institution is an amazing history. I did all the study, all the research. Excuse me. I ended up then litigating myself, self-representing against the Smithsonian Institution. And what people don't know, and I'll just give you an idea of how most people are so unaware of what the Smithsonian Institution is when she said you can appeal it all you want, after recovering, it took me like a week. I could hear in my head this taunt. You can appeal it. Because I'm like, what can I do? You can appeal it. You can appeal it now. Because she's like, you can appeal it all you want. And I then said, well, who's her boss? Who runs the Smithsonian Institution? Well, there's a board of regents. And guess who sits on the board of regents? The chancellor of the Smithsonian Institution is Chief Justice John Roberts. The vice
I'm not a fan of his, but
I know. Yeah. The vice president of the United States. 3 members of Congress, 3 members of the House, of the Senate, and 9 members of the public. So you have 17 very important people sitting on this board of regents. So I appeal to them. They kick me to the curb. I then file a federal lawsuit, and I go through 8 years of federal litigation against them. And to bring it, the story is in the book up until what's happened in the last 6 weeks. And for those who don't know, may not have followed it, in Washington, major things took place that affect me and have affected my story. This is now 8 years. I'm at my 3rd Smithsonian lawsuit that was just filed last week. This is all because of what's happened in the last month. And that is, at the beginning of the second presidency, President Trump pointed his finger already at the Smithsonian, saying they need to be basically brought to heel because of he called it improper ideology. And then on May 30th, that's May 3rd, that's only a few weeks ago, he fired Kim Sayat, who is the director of the National Portrait Gallery, who's the antagonist in my book. And he says, a lot of people told me that she's highly partisan. My lawsuits had already brought that up. She was already charged as being highly partisan in my lawsuits. It's amazing how this has taken this long. But finally, he points, my story and my painting was number 4 on the president's list of 17 reasons to fire Kim Sayat. And so he fires her. He didn't have the legal authority to do it. The Washington Post calls me up, what do you think of this? Can he fire? I said, no, he can't fire her, but in spirit he could, because he's the representative of the people. He's the president, but he had no legal authority to fire her. The Smithsonian goes all quiet. They pretend and try to ignore him. And then they have their private board of regents meeting. a week later, she resigns. So my story is remarkable now that this one woman who is from the first chapter of the book, she's right there on page 1. The chapter is called Power and Abuse, where she calls me up with this. I was abused. I was victimized by this.
Fascistic, the left, the usual fascistic, dictatorial. They call us fascists, but they are all about absolute power. And no, me, I decide. You don't get any say, right? Yeah, my way, the highway. And all at the same time trying to peddle mobocracy. They're not about democracy. They're all about whatever gets them power and control the Lord over everyone else.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of Christitutionals, taking a brief moment to thank myarchic.com. Together we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. MyArchic.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also, therefore, can be shared online. Think of MyArchic like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchic.com.
Well, I've seen that on both sides. I mean, I see it on both sides.
There's rhinos and xenos too. I don't wear the Republican hat all the time, although I consider myself a Republican.
I'm in a political wilderness. I left it all behind. It's like, I got very good because, again, my goal is Christ. My goal is at the heart of what I'm doing is
constitutionalism here. Yes.
My goal is and to use the liberties and the law. This is again going back to the Apostle Paul. Paul, the model that he gave us in that whole experience is that he used the legal citizenship he had as a Roman. He used all of these legal tools that he had to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. He used it in the system. He didn't shy away from the system. He didn't try to tear the system down. He didn't try to do this or that. He said, I'm a citizen. I'm a Roman citizen. I can appeal this all the way up to Caesar. I'm going to appeal this to Caesar. I'm going to make my case before Caesar because I'm going to use it as an opportunity to present the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ. And at the heart of what I'm doing, it's in my book. The gospel is woven in through my book. It's a book for the unbeliever as much as it is an inspirational book for the believer. But it's written in such a way that it brings people to a faith understanding. My faith, as I express it, my journey, my experience, understanding the voice of God. How do we listen to the voice of God? Does God speak to us? It's a whole story on multiple levels that instructs people about the ideas that we as Christians hold dear. That's what's at the heart of what I do, because my primary calling is as a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is who I am. So that at the end of it, with politics and this whole thing, this to me, my story, where I am right now on this third lawsuit. See, even a lot of Christians, there was another, believe it or not, there's another Christian, a missionary, 1970s. He sued the Smithsonian himself. He's one of the few lawsuits against the Smithsonian. One of the other ones was by this Christian. He didn't get anywhere with it because his argument was basically
But you stand on the shoulders of who came before you.
Right.
Yes.
And everybody is pitching their little bit in there. And so at the end of the day, the point is that as God is using this story and he's using this journey and this testimony right now, I get to share my faith. I get to share that this is God at work. God is using us. And for the Christian, many times, and as you'll know this, Christians, even your position, however it is involving, the Christian faith in the political, is like America is a place where our Christianity can be expressed freely, can be expressed
supposed to be. Yeah.
It can be expressed legislatively in the sense of its principles, not as religion, but as ideas. Thou shalt not murder is a good idea, right? And well, it's a law too in this country. Well, they didn't just make it up out of thin air. They got it from somewhere, as we discussed at the beginning. So our mission as believers in this country, see, the American decay when we look at and I come from Europe, so I know about decay. I've seen England decay. I've seen England completely lose its Christian heritage virtually, other than having buildings there that still witness, and a very small church, a powerless church. Spain is the same. But when you look at the American decay and you say, well, what responsibility does the Church of Jesus Christ bear in America? And I, as someone who has been a revivalist, I lay the responsibility at the feet mainly of the pulpit, because the pulpit is where the truth either comes from or is perverted, where preachers have, because of the prosperity and the good life that America has offered people, human beings, as we said at the beginning, the weakness of humans is just to get accustomed to the comfort and the ease in Zion, basically, and we're asleep in Zion, and we got all this stuff and all of our toys and all of the dinky things and all of this stuff, and then all the garbage that's coming off from the pulpit, and as they've used the freedoms and the abundance and the wealth of this country to build up their kingdoms and themselves, and then they don't want the gospel so much. So
two things. Time flies, like with all guests. We could talk hours, and then no one would watch because it'd be too long. But you mentioned the thou shalt not kill. It's really thou shalt not murder innocents. And Exodus 22:2 alone, as well as other scriptures, are the basis for self-defense and other laws. Sometimes a killing is justifiable, not a murder. So do you have a website people can go to?
It's called Smithson Institution. James Smithson was the Englishman who founded the Smithsonian Institution. And my website is Smithson, like Smith's son.
Yeah.
It's Smithson Institution. The official name for the Smithsonian Institution is the Smithsonian, or si.edu. Mine is smithsoninstitution.com. And there you can find out the story. There you can see the history and a lot of the documents, the litigation, the image, the ongoing story. It's a fascinating journey. And it's to inspire believers to say, if we do not stand up and speak when we can.
You can't just sit idly by on the sidelines. The Bible, right? You must sow to reap, or you're complicit in the rotten fruit we're all trying to choke down. You shall be known by your fruits. Not you get on your knees, but yes, you must then also get off your knees, get off your hind side,
put your shoes
out and put on your shoes, your coat, get out and do things. No, you can't rest. No, you can't sit idly by. Only thing necessary, evil prevails. Good peoples do nothing. No, you can't rest. No, let him do it. No, him or her needs our help.
That's exactly it. And that's why, as an individual, self-representing, I have no means other than my faith really in God, my family, I have a wonderful wife and children, very supportive of what I do. But as an individual, as a citizen, it shows the power that God has given to American citizens to do what I'm doing, what I've been doing. My appeal has gone all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. I've walked those steps myself as a newborn American citizen, remarkable on my journey. And so the encouragement to the church, whether it's potholes in your street, whether it's drug addicts on the corner, there are so many needs that the gospel is the remedy to. And if it's not the gospel, it's the principles of Scripture that just applied in the right context, in the spirit of Christ, in the spirit of Christian love, but without compromise, in the spirit of Christian courage, without compromise. We show love, but we show commitment and integrity. Those things in this world today are the brightest light because it's so dark because of the corruption in which we find ourselves today.
Yeah.
So the exhortation to the Christian is that.
We humans screwed that up, right? It's like 100 different Bibles, 100 different denominations of supposed Christianity as supposed followers of Christ. That's why I say this Christitutional show is not Catholic or Protestant or Baptist or Lutheran or whatever, right? Jesus never said, go forth and create 100 churches in my name. We screwed that up. Thank you, Julian Raven, for coming by. I can't promise when this will air, but when it does, of course, I will reach out, let you know, so you can share on social media and all that stuff. Thank you, Julian Raven.
God bless you, Joseph. Thank you.
In discussion with someone during Books Authors Weeks, I mentioned I had not been out of the state of Michigan since 2006. Well, I remember now that's not completely accurate. And it's not about me, it's about the show's credibility, about dealing in facts and being honest. So, yes, during the Wuhan hysteria, and while wretched Whitler still had the state of Michigan locked down, Governor DeWine of Ohio unlocked his state. Should have never locked it down, but unlocked his state early. And on a nice day, chance to get out of the house, chance to get out of the state, even though I don't like putting the extra miles on the car. I need it to last. It's got a lot of miles on it. But again, it's not about me. This is about credibility of the show, facts and honesty, right? So I drove down to Toledo, ate, even though I couldn't afford to burn the gas, bought, just got Burger King there rather than Burger King here or whatever, McDonald's, whatever it was. I don't remember, not important. And went to a movie to support the theater, not in Toledo, actually outside of Toledo. I forget the chain name. I forget the movie. Not important. It was something I wanted to see, so it wasn't like I drove there to then pick a random movie they had going. So, hence the need for the correction to maintain the credibility here, not, I know you know what I mean, right? So, anyway, end segment 1 recorded early. Head into segment 2 that will be recorded later on a topic TBD, right? To be determined yet. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. Love you all. And don't go away. Here we go into the actual substance of what this episode's supposed to be about.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Thank you for having tuned into another Constitutionalist podcast show. I really appreciate that you stopped by. Again, please like, share, subscribe. We need you to help spread the Constitutionalist movement. Thank you again. Take care. God bless. Love you all.
Every day and night, believes in freedom and making his voice heard, sharing his message over all the earth. God loves those things that all you do. Stand strong and God bless you.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.